Another chapter will be added to the EU versus NA rivalry. The results of today's best of 5 could cause a whole continent to cheer or cry out in despair. We'll see how Fnatic and Cloud9 perform under the pressure. Reckless and his squad looking confident as they prepare for the series ahead. Hello, everyone. I'm James Ash Patterson, joined by Indiana Frosker in black, Chris Papa Smithy Smith, and Joshua Jack Leesman for the second semifinal day and the last day here on this desk. We got a swift 3-0 yesterday after some very close, tight-knit quarterfinals. What were your impressions coming off of that?
I wish it would have been longer, mainly so there would have been more to distract me before today's games.
I know the anxiety levels are nuts.
Because I want them to start right now. The countdown timer is just taunting me of this is how long we have to wait until the opening ceremony.
We've never been this invested before.
It's an auspicious day, right? Auspicious day is the exact fitting of NA versus EU, first time since, season 1. This is very much a trend-setting day, and you think about yesterday, the only thing you really take away is one of the shortest series of all time when it comes to a best of 5.
Which makes Invictus Gaming look quite scary when we preview that finals matchup. But yesterday, Invictus proved they deserved a shot at the Summoners Cup after taking down G2 Esports in convincing fashion. All that's left to be seen is who IG will face in Incheon with today's semifinal brawl between Fnatic and Cloud9. And that performance is exactly the kind of stuff you want to see if you're an Invictus Gaming fan in a swift 3-0 over G2.
Yeah, last hope for the LPL. Invictus Gaming came out swinging and ripped that gap open. Just to remind everyone that, hey, it's not over yet. There still is a shot that an Eastern team takes the finals, and it was really the Shy and Rookie popping off.
Yeah, and one of the themes of this World Championship has been play your game. Just turns out that IG's game has been solo lane dominance the entire year, and that actually feels like the trend for a lot of the teams that have made it this far in the tournament. So IG definitely showed up and proved their worth yesterday.
I mean, you say play your game, Jet. It was very much a single-player game by the Shy. He basically went in, rolled through, and it was just disgusting the amount of damage he was able to pull out.
I mean, with that, considering tonight's series, we have the potential for our finals to be 2 teams from the same group in Fnatic and Invictus Gaming. That is, of course, if the Europeans reign supreme tonight.
It kind of feels like the crash course, if you will, Fnatic and IG getting that best of 5, and like you're saying, unless the usurpers of Cloud9 decide to throw a spanner in the works.
And while this is no doubt the highest stakes clash between these 2 teams, it's far from the first time that they've ever faced off. Cast your mind all the way back to 2013 Worlds quarterfinals, where Fnatic prevailed 2-1.
Yeah, you'll see some familiar faces here. Sneaky was in this match. Reckless actually wasn't old enough to play at this time, but Soaz was in the Fnatic starting lineup.
And Puja was in this game. It was a Kassadin that went legendary in Game 3. Ended up being a 2-1 win overall, a very nail-biting one. They've met many times subsequently after that, but actually the ledger is a good one to read for C9.
Right, 7-3, I believe, an all-time record between these teams. So although the last time at Worlds they met in a quarterfinal, C9 fell down a spot, they do have that overall record.
And I feel like you can feel good if you're both an NA and an EU fan, because it is these 2 historic organizations. As the international ledger shows, it's been these 2 have really been the top benchmarks of Western performance.
Yeah, and this is the most meaningful matchup they've had. I'd say the other most meaningful matchup was that 2013 quarterfinal, because they were in the same group in 2015. They went 1-1. C9 2-0'd them at Rift Rivals. C9 beat them at Battle of the Atlantic. But
what are you saying, Jet?
Those have different importance levels than World Championships, and the semifinals with a spot in the finals for the first time for a Western team since 2011. That's way more meaningful than everything else put together.
Yeah, without a doubt. All that mounting to today's series where the pressure has never been higher for either of these teams. I guess my question is, for which team is it higher? Let's start by talking about Cloud9.
And the thing is you would think that if this was an LCK team, if this was an LPL team that Cloud9 were facing, that almost there'd be no pressure. You know, they'd be like, we're past quarterfinals, we're in the semifinals, this is basically a victory lap, doesn't matter if we go out here. But because it is Europe, and because there is such an intense rivalry, I feel like there's more pressure than necessary, but still fairly easy coasting for Cloud9. From 10th place to semifinals at Worlds, like these guys are coasting through.
If you can remove yourself emotionally, I get that thought, but at the end of the day, they've already set a record, right? We're seeing C9 into the semifinals. That's a meaningful achievement, yes, but you never want to rest on your laurels. You're already saying, all right, we're not facing an Eastern team in the semifinals like G2 had to. We're in our best position to actually make it to the grand final. There may never be a better table setting than what C9 see today, and that must make them optimistic that this could be another defining day. Yeah, certainly hungry.
And personally, I've always kind of hated the NA defeatism when they go into the bracket stage, where they go into a quarterfinal and they say, well, we made it this far, but there's no way we're beating Samsung White. Like this year, We saw Cloud9 knock Korea out of the tournament by 3-0ing Freak of Freaks, and we saw Fnatic knock EDG out of the tournament. So they've already beaten the previous teams that sometimes they go and say we can't beat. So there is a sense of hope, I think, for both regions. But it has more pressure? I think the favorite has more pressure, and I do think the favorite is Fnatic.
That's where I was getting at, to land on Fnatic and the fact that they as well have some pressure mounting. When it comes to the pressure, though, and how it affects him, Young Buck doesn't care how long this series will go. He's confident that the team will close it out.
Thank you very much, guys. I'm here with Fnatic's team director, Young Buck, ahead of their semifinals. Now, Joey, we have had the pleasure of talking to you ahead of a lot of important matches this year for Fnatic, but this one is something else. Can you explain to me the weight and the importance of this match for Fnatic as a team?
Well, I think the winner of this match is going to be the first Western team that made the finals since Season 1, and the first time since Korea has actually risen to the top. So we just wanted to write history for the entire West and Europe since the start of the year. So now that we're here, we really don't want to drop the ball.
Absolutely not. Now, forgive me if I say it, but some of your players have been quite cocky, confident, sometimes bordering on cocky, I definitely say so. What is your attitude towards that from a managing and team's perspective?
Throughout the year, we've had players that have been confident or not confident. And for specifically Martin, for example, whenever he has been confident, he performs extremely well because he's just very confident in his own capabilities against the opposing bot lane. So when he's very confident, I'm very happy. If he's like, oh, I'm really scared of this matchup, then I know that maybe he's going to perform like evenly with the enemy bot lane. But now that he's very confident, I have a lot of trust in him. And I think everyone is still giving 100% for this match and definitely not looking past the semifinals.
Right. Well, that is, of course, very important. C9 have looked incredibly strong. They 3-0'd a Freak of Freaks. What are your general thoughts about the skill level between the two teams? Is it going all the way?
It's very tough to say because usually I would say that we are clear favorites, but they came out swinging in the quarterfinals, and we had a pretty rough time, I would say. So it's a little bit difficult to say where we are, especially because we haven't played them in a while in practice either. So I guess today we're just actually going to find out how strong they are without really knowing.
Bit of a mystery, so I'm not going to ask you for your prediction. I'm sure you'll say Fnatic will win. Could you dare give me a game score from your heart, from your gut?
I think if we win the first game, it's going to be a 3-0. I think if we lose the first one, it's going to be a 3-1 for us.
All right, there we go. Confident but calm and collected going into their semifinal. Thank you very much, Young Buck. Back over to you guys.
Thank you, Shocks. Measured confidence out of Young Bucks, citing C9's impressive quarterfinal as a reason why it should be a competitive series today.
And then saying 3-0 or 3-1 in the case that we lost the first game. So I think the measurements got a little bit.
What if you lose the first two?
I don't know if he's thought about that one.
Yeah, we haven't thought that far.
But that's the big thing, we talk about how the community has so much expectations on Fnatic. The last Western hope, this is the Western team that's going to win it. And it's not just the community, it's also the Fnatic players themselves.
Right.
Reckless being, Shocks used the word, confident, maybe borderline cocky. And if the emotional or mental fortitude gets tested in this series, do we start to see a collapse from Fnatic, or do they rise to the occasion and meet that cockiness?
I think Reckless said basically it's a bit of emotional distancing, right? You come in confident and then worst comes to worst, you just get off social media. I don't know if he's thinking about that way anymore. His prophetic words are getting more and more into reality now that we're in semifinals and they come in favorites.
All right, well, taking you into that series in just what is it, 20 minutes, 21 minutes? There's a glare on the screen.
21 minutes.
Our freak,
Someone's like
Patricio and
reflecting.
Kobe, who tuned into a particular set of players when it comes to this matchup.
Thank you very much, Dash. Yes, my name is David Freak Turley. This is Sam, Kobe, Hartman, Kensler, and on the far side, Martin Fisher Lunga, talking to us about a particular set of players we're looking at for today's games.
I mean, mid-jungle, both teams, 4 Danish players, of course. Svenskær and Jensen on one side against, we have Broxa and Caps on the other side. I almost forgot the names very quickly right there.
That's going well.
I just think, especially the jungle matchup is going to be so crucial for the early game.
Yeah, I gotta be honest, Broxa has actually been my favorite jungler of the tournament here. His split-second decision-making on things like Lee Sin, hiding the Sonic Wave animation coming out by safeguarding into a brush or, kicking people away for escapes has been so exciting to watch. On the other hand, Svenskær hard carrying some games for Cloud9 versus a Freak of Freaks, especially in their quarterfinal matchup to get here. So both of those guys are going to have a lot to do with the mid lane matchup, which is critical.
Yeah, I think all 4 of those players in that mid jungle for both teams have been really, really good. Let's talk about the mid laners, though, as well. Jensen, of course, a big name here in North America, and Caps has been, of course, a standout for Fnatic as well. The stats are interesting, though, because even with a lot more games for Jensen, Caps has gotten more solo kills, and also only half the times dying on his lonesome, so able to escape ganks quite well.
Yeah, it is kind of crazy that someone can beat Caps in terms of dying alone, because he's actually managed to do that quite a bit. But as you saw with Jensen right there, teams have found success when they try and gank him quite a lot. That is a strategy Fnatic have used in the past. It's very important C9 stop that from happening.
Well, we'll see how that goes towards the best of 5. Only 19 minutes and 18 seconds away. No glare here. A couple of things we're looking for in this series. Back to you, Dash. Good luck.
Well, aren't you cool, Free? Well, aren't you cool? Let's see. If I look at this TV, I can read 1904. With how quickly yesterday's series went, right? Impressive. Wow. With how quickly yesterday's series went, one of my analysts had some extra time to cook up another World's edition of Jatstead. So we're going to toss it over to that end of the desk.
All right, so semifinals, very important time. Europe always talks about making it to the semifinals, but I do have a question, especially for a new European LCS caster. G2 lost 0-3 yesterday. That extended the EU LCS's game-losing streak in World Semifinals. What is the current count of games in a row lost in the semifinals by an EU LCS team?
Let's see. H2K, Origin, Fnatic.
That's already 9.
G2.
12. It's probably...
What was G2 in this? Oh, this one.
Because aren't you counting this one?
This one counts.
And then they would have lost the last game in a previous series.
They didn't make it. 2014 was the year that North America made like a good run because TSM made it and then took a game off of Samsung White. I think EU got blown out that year.
7.
Are we counting MSI or just
You're
Worlds?
saying 7 games in a row. This is just Worlds.
Oh.
They won a game.
7 games in a row at Worlds in semis. So they lost 3 yesterday. But then you're going all the way back to...
So it's definitely 12 in a row, all the way back to 2015.
Yeah.
In a row?
Yes.
They didn't win
some prep.
Yes.
How many you got?
But they would have also lost
I
games in
named
the
everything.
previous
Where's my
series.
credit?
I would
You didn't
say,
say the
I would
number.
say, I'm going to say
The question's the
14,
number.
13, or 15, because they did win one game previously, but I don't know what game they won.
All right.
I'm going to say like 14.
And this is just since 2014.
Well, it's just how many in a row at Worlds have they lost? All the way back.
I would say 14.
Okay.
That's as good a guess as you're going to get out of me.
I named the teams. I guess I'm with Papa.
All right, you named all the teams. So close, 13. Okay.
Ah!
You really were on the right track. I couldn't believe this when I found it.
That was really
but
solid.
They've made it to semifinals so many times.
Right.
The last time they won a semifinal was actually back in 2011.
One game.
Because they both made the 2012 semifinals and then lost, if you remember, COG EU and Moscow 5. Anyway, that was the longer question. I wanted to switch into a bit of a rapid fire Fnatic versus C9.
Oh, great.
One person gets to answer at a time. I'm going to start with Frosk. Right? This is a pattern.
Hot seat.
Yeah. So anyway, these are the questions. Top lane CS percentage between 15 and 30 minutes. Each one of these percentages represents either C9's top lane CS percentage or Fnatic's one.
Okay.
And you have to tell me which is which.
I would assume that Fnatic would get more of the CS or separated CS onto their top laner because Licorice seems to group with his team a lot.
All right, let's reveal.
Damn it.
C9, 24%.
Oh, all right.
We're keeping it with this. Jungle CS percentage, 15 to 30 minutes. Papa Smithy, which one is which, 14 or 15.3%?
I'm going to say the 15.3 goes to Svenskeren.
That is correct. Sven Skjern with 15.2%, bringing
All
the
right,
desk to
Papa
50%.
Smithy.
I say who you prepped with.
Dash. Another question. The mid lane CS percentage between 15 and 30 minutes.
Piece of cake.
27.5 or 25.2?
Piece of cake.
They're both
What
pretty
is it?
big, remember?
Who takes more farm? Is it Jensen or is it Caps?
You know what? I'm going to go with Caps gets more because he likes to go to side lanes.
You should know this, man. Jensen always
I would've
takes
said
higher
Jensen.
CS
Would you
percentage.
really?
Yeah.
Really?
All right, that's why you only get to answer 2 questions total. Frost Curran, you get another one. Bot lane CS percentage, 15 to 30 minutes. Who takes more bot lane farm?
Reckless.
Yes, you got it.
Whoa!
47%. By the way, that's the most CS percentage of anyone in either of the.
The only reason I
All
know
right,
that
Papa
is
Smithy.
about those stats.
Control words purchased per game by supports.
Bring it home for
One
the
of those
desk.
support is Fnatic support. The other is C9. So Zazel or
Zazel,
Billy.
Roam.
I'm going to go with Zazel with 18.
Correct.
Woo!
Again. Desk back to
my
ring
boy
record.
right there.
Dash. Next one comes to
No, you said I only do 2.
Don't mess it up.
2 of the
I don't wanna
rapid-fire
go again.
questions.
I
First
pass.
blood percentage at Worlds 2018. 84% and 54%. This each refers to a
Ooh,
team.
that's
Cloud9 have been killing a lot of people.
They have. That was my gut.
Broxa's been popping.
Broxa is the
Why are you getting help?
counter
This is
argument.
this is your question.
He needs
All right,
it.
I'll go with my gut. I'm gonna go Cloud9 with 84%.
Nailed it. Good job.
Yes!
First blood kings. All right. First turret percentage from groups in quarterfinals. 72.7 and 30%.
Okay, so Sneaky blasted lane in quarterfinals, and Reckless had to face iBoy and Mako. So I would
all the
say that
groups?
Cloud9 probably this is
Yeah, groups and quarters. Remember Cloud9
Yeah,
get moved
that's a
It
smashed
was
in
just that
groups.
one
They
game.
get it all
playing.
Smashed in groups.
Oh no.
It removes plans, though.
Yeah.
Let's go God,
It's your question.
let's do Reckless. Reckless for more first
This is for teams. All right, you got
All right, there it is.
Technically, there's
You
a
got
hint
it.
in this question. C9 has only played 10 games, so 30% had to be them. Orin record, 3-0 and 2-0.
Who's played more Orn? So has played 3 games.
Licorice
And I
had
know he
2
played
games
more.
alone in the quarterfinals.
This is for
That's
teams.
Yeah,
This
but we were
isn't
looking
even
at
individual players.
Bwippo as well has Orin games, and then Licorice
Final
has
question.
at least.
I think it's
Jazz
Licorice that
Stats.
plays more.
I might get this one wrong, but I'm going to
But
go with...
it's the whole team, so that could be Bwippo and
be.
Soaz together.
I'll go with C9 being 3-0.
Close, but
Close.
I
Close.
appreciate it. Thank you.
There's
One
two
off.
It was the only other option it could have
I
been.
was close, damn it. I was
You
close.
were so close.
all right, that was fun. I like that.
If you
back
had
and
just
forth.
said the one other
I think you has a winning record.
That
so
was
you
stressful.
win in the best of
Both teams with a winning record on Orin might be the key to the series. We have to take a break. When we come back, we go over the champions that could tilt the series in one team's favor and recap the roads each have taken to arrive here. We'll see you here in 3.5.
Already tilted.
I'm already tilted.
Welcome back to World's Countdown, where we're zeroing in on the first game here of the day between Fnatic and Cloud9. I hate all of you so much right now.
How many minutes are there in Zero?
You know what? There's 9 minutes and 47 seconds left.
I can't
Papa
wait.
Smithy. Okay, I can't wait
It's
either.
palpable.
The story of the tournament has been buying into your own style. And Cloud9 themselves, they cited that it was a product of watching Vitality, where they really landed and honed in on what their strategy should be throughout this tournament.
And I felt like just out during scrims, they see what's working, they decide to throw everything at the wall, they hit the right darts, and they decided we're gonna play full aggressive early, and they killed every meme along the way. Sneaky in lane, lol, that guy was a god in lane.
And C9, I think, more than most teams, are willing to throw out what they've put time into in the past for a new thing. That's why they pull out the Hecarim pick off a few games of solo queue from Licorice. That's why they pull out Lucian after prioritizing late game carries the entire play-in stage. So C9 definitely is night and day compared to some of their earlier performances this tournament and that quarterfinal.
And I know we're ready to just say that about every team because it feels like everyone's playing kind of their own game, but C9 to me is the clearest test of it. You think back to the Gambit series where they struggled to actually get into the main stage, and then suddenly, just like they talked about, a scrim block where they're watching Vitality play and get the inspiration, the eye test shows suddenly they're playing around Svenskeren and they're invading, they're aggressive. It feels like kind of some old C9 strategies returning to Singed and Shen and all the picks that have worked for them on different rosters. So C9 to me killing it on the world stage.
Yeah, and when you look at Fnatic, people talk about like Reckless benching himself. Like Jensen got benched in the summer split,
Right.
And now he's solo killing Worlds mid laners again. Like he has come back so strong in the latter half of this year, and he's kind of back to that old form.
Yeah, what a story for a player like him. You know, was known as a hot shot, you know, in his earliest days coming in, and the expectation was he would rival players like Bjergsen. Fell off the map a little bit in most recent years, and then returns on a pick like a Zillion, the supportive champion. And that's where their run towards the World Championship started, and then so quickly willing to abandon it when it gets banned or when it's not the right pick for the team and go back to something aggressive.
But that last point is so interesting because they come in today with a player who will play for himself in caps, and now which Jensen do we see? Does he try to go back to playing the LeBlanc that he's played this tournament, or does he go to the utility that can have some inconsistencies in lane phase? These are questions we can't know the answer to till pick and ban start.
And while Cloud9's rise has been rapid and all at once, we have to talk about Fnatic, whose road to the semifinals has been a year-long process where they consistently exceeded the expectations set before them.
And it's really kind of the return of Fnatic, not just being the kings of Europe again, but they pretty much smashed through that spring final. They came into MSI, they solidified their candidacy for an international threat. And then while there were a couple of, you know, bumps and bruises, you know, Reckless moving away from the roster during summer as the funnel meta took over, Bwippo was really the standout. So overall, they've just been on this skyrocket trajectory going forward, and it's like the return of the domestic power as well as the international crown for Fnatic.
Yeah, and when you talk about exceeding expectations, the lofty expectations before Worlds was that they'd make semifinals. Now the expectations are that they'll either make finals or win finals, depending on who you talk to. So it is impressive how much they have continued to improve. And I think I want to talk about Bwippo in the top lane as well, because that guy at MSI had played a handful of professional games and had to compete against world caliber top laners. And now I feel like he's truly holding his own in the top lane at this championship.
I think Bwippo and Reckless have had the biggest words. Right? Reckless especially is very much kind of believing in the own hype that he's generated early in the tournament. He knows what to say in the interviews. Say you're going to win Worlds. That's what people want to hear. But it's not just empty. It's just not hot air. It's not empty words. It's actually reality now that they are one of the big favorites for this tournament.
Without a doubt. Now, each of these teams have made it to this semifinal with an arsenal of unique champion picks, and top lane has gone through constant evolution throughout this tournament, all the way up until the victor picks that we saw popping up just this last week.
Yeah, and the thing is this is such a hype matchup because you have Licorice popping off in the Ornn, taking the Baron still. You have Whippo now solidifying himself on an international stage, and Soaz isn't even on this graphic, and when you include him, then it just gets even better.
Yeah, and one of those two guys is going to end up having to break. You can't have both of them with a positive CS differential. You can't have two forward percentages that high. Like, both of these guys have been dominant.
But I love to look at the shared champion pool that we're able to put on the screen. It's not really much of a shared champion pool. Urgot is basically permaban at this point, or might not be seen. And then you see on the right side for Licorice, you see a whole lot of kind of his unique picks, like the Hecarim, for example, the Singe that we don't expect to be contested at all. Meanwhile, the most recent stuff, the Mages, is where I think Whippo will definitely want to play.
Yeah, and this champion pool, I think, just speaks to how much trust the coaches have to have in the player to execute matchups, because we could get pushed so far down that Whippo is blind picking Victor, and you're wondering what Licorice's counter pick to Victor is going to be.
The rock, paper, scissors of these unique champion pools is going to be very
And you also have to know when to just jump back to what you were doing earlier, because the Victor is already really far down the rabbit hole. You might forget about Urgot Aatrox, and you might have to play that at some point. So these guys have to have such a command over so many different styles of champions that it's a true test of top lane.
And that is just the top lane. So now let's talk about a couple of the other lanes that we think might be impactful to the results of this matchup in the junglers. Broxa versus Svenskeren both have been top performers at this tournament for their team.
And the thing is Broxa popped off in the group stage, had an incredible Lee Sin performance, wasn't the strongest quarterfinals, but he was still there, whereas Svenskeren on the other side had a decent play-ins, decent groups, and then really popped off on the Graves when it came to quarterfinals.
It's a Danish mid-jungle 2v2 between these two teams, and that's kind of the big hype thing, is that both these roles are going to be so critical. Svenskeren has come out very much with a breakout performance compared to some of his struggles on the world stages before, and then it just amps up into 2v2. That might be the pivotal duo in this match.
Yeah, and I feel like these are actually the two best performing junglers at Worlds so far, so I can't wait to see them go head-to-head as well.
Right, when we did the aggregated all-pro list yesterday, they were the two votes, and they were very much neck and neck. As we ramp into the final moments before the match starts, spam chat with who you believe will win out today, either FNC for Fnatic or C9 for Cloud9. Of course, while you guys spam chat, we're going to talk win conditions. Papa Smithy, you're up first. No, you're not. I lied. Jat, you're up first. With Fnatic, we're following with Cloud9.
I'm going to break down what I think Fnatic needs to do to win this game, and I think it starts with actually controlling bot river. And this can mean a few things. It's either a stronger 2v2 bot or a stronger mid lane, but it needs to unlock Hylissang to be able to roam. That's how they've come back in games they're losing, and that's how they get control of games they're winning. I also don't think they should draft a weak early game, and they need to be proactive when they might have a tendency to be a little reactive, since that did work against EDG. In the EDG series, sometimes they're able to draft late games, sometimes they're able to draw it out. I don't think that will work against C9, so Fnatic needs to rely on their individual skill with early game drafts and outpace C9.
That's how Fnatic does it. What's C9's answer?
Honestly, just going from what you're saying, I think I'm going to run into some of the points you're coming up with. I'm going to open up with empowering Svenskeren to take over the jungle. I think when he is setting the tone, and specifically the one game, game one of Fnatic versus EDG, where EDG was able to win the jungle matchup, suddenly Caps couldn't push out and everything kind of fell into place for EDG. From there, getting a priority bot lane, that might be a return to the Lucian Braum, but specifically what I want to see is Zeyzal's ability to roam, because I feel like Zeyzal plus Svenskeren is kind of the sweet spot for deciding a game for C9 if they're forced into the lane. I don't think we're going to see any solo kills in the 2v2 happening like they were able to do against Afrika, so I really want to see Zeyzal on the roam. And finishing it off, this is kind of a specific point, but I thought Whippo would play. He is starting game number one. The Mages, the Victor, the Swain, that's what I think he wants to be playing. Have either some new stuff or be able to put back some of your old picks that will work in lane and not just be forced out, because of course the first pick Aatrox that we saw time and time again against Afrika was really the only one black mark in what was almost a flawless series by C9.
A few thoughts on how the teams might actually be able to achieve victory. It's a whole nother animal to perform on the day. So as the chat thinks C9 is going to pick up the victory, I'm going to ask you guys the same question. Who takes it and meets IG in the finals? Frostgren, we're starting with you.
And I was really going back and forth on this one. I do feel that it's 50-50. You have Cloud9, who has shown that they have a propensity for this meta. They'll play the early game, they'll dominate the lane phase. On the other side, you have Fnatic, who against Edward Gaming have proven that even if you come at them hard and fast, that they'll survive and they'll get the team fight. I just kept going, but it's okay, because Vedius left me this coin.
Is that a weighted coin?
It is a Danish kroner.
Ooh, European coin.
Check this one out.
And I'm going to flip it, and we are going to see who will win.
All right. What'd it land on?
Well, it's Fnatic 3-2.
3-2. So it was gonna be 3-2 either way.
It was a six-sided coin?
Yeah.
Oh, this was the C930 side.
It's close, but
She's been playing some
3-2.
D&D. It's fine. It's fine.
Okay.
All right, Papa Smithy, what are you thinking?
So again, I had the C9 win conditions. That means I can visualize how C9 win. I can think of those specific scenarios. But my issue is, I feel like every resting scenario, every other scenario, barring some very specific win conditions, it's Fnatic. So I have to go with Fnatic 3-1. I think this will end up being pretty comfortable over the course of the 4 games that I'm putting forward. But I do think the C9, again, have some scenarios where they do win.
Yeah, I think the
Did you get the
cheating
coin?
EU coin
No
Bedius
coin.
gave you speaks to who is the favorite. I think Papa Smithy speaks to who is the favorite. But I also think that Cloud9, a lot of this will come down to draft. And trying to analyze Reaper's drafts for the last 2 years, I've learned that this guy is incredibly good at finding exactly how to attack people. For instance, locking an Aatrox in the first game just because they have an Aatrox counterpick that they're going to be able to get to later. So I think he's got some games ready with how versatile his players are. I think the way they performed in the quarterfinals and the growth they've shown throughout this tournament, whereas Fnatic hasn't actually fallen off yet or had to really recover in a real way. So I think C9 can take this one 3-1.
Either way, we're looking at a close series. 3 seconds to go as the teams load up for the opening ceremony.